Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and you're tuned into season 3 of Live Discussions with Diamond. And today, here, I have the man here, the MC, Island Touch's own, Mr. Rudi Lopez.
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my brother. I mean, honestly, for me, following your journey for so many years, I mean, going back to the mid 2000s, late 2000s, and seeing where you and the rest of Island Touch has come from the beginnings of it, it's really truly special. And I'm thankful to have you on board because in the bachata community, especially, you and Island Touch are seen as kind of the pioneers of really taking over the mainstream. And these are the conversations that myself and a lot of dancers have privately, because you don't really get to have those conversations on the dance floor. But it is important because you guys really are the ones bringing us festivals, bringing us events, bringing artists from all over the world to come here and share what we all love is the love of dance. So again, I appreciate you coming on to the platform tonight.
Thank you.
And definitely before we get started, I just want to know, how are you and the rest of the family doing out there?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I've been watching your growth since you started it. Things look really nice. I congratulate you on your efforts, and it's definitely a good thing that you're doing for the scene. As far as we are at home, our family, Island Touch, Ataka, La Alemana, Bianca, myself, we all live together in Orlando. And this have been challenging times, but we refuse to complain because we know that we've been so blessed and so fortunate compared to so many people. So we just choose to look at the silver linings, and we're all healthy. All of our family has been healthy. So we just looking for ways to stay positive and be a positive force even from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with COVID and quarantining and seeing that, tons of events from all over the world now kind of being postponed, especially now the New York Salsa Congress was just postponed, and realizing like, hey, with this COVID, it really affects our dance community, especially because I tell a lot of our
Mhm.
guests, we thrive on connection. We
100%.
thrive on socialization. So having to kind of take a back seat for a few months, I think, is essential, especially if we want to get back to where we want to. Because again, it's like we love dance, but I think our safety is way more important. And I'm
Mm,
definitely happy to hear that you and the rest of the family are doing well. And again,
thank you.
for me, like I tell all my guests throughout the interview, we'll be having, because we have here as well comments that'll come in kind of real time. And also here we have somebody saying, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm going to figure out who that is here already. But again,
Thank you for the love.
it's a celebration because, to be honest with you, we really don't get these moments sometimes to kind of reflect and celebrate the people that give us so much joy in our dancing community, and are
Mhm.
able to bring more education. Because besides bringing the entertainment, I really think Island Touch, and especially yourself, bring a lot of education to the forefront. Because you're not
Thank
just doing events in the US and abroad, but you're also, especially bachata, bringing it back to the Dominican Republic and the roots, and really
you. Hmm.
engaging the people there and working with them there. So I really think
For
that's
sure.
amazing. It's commendable. And for me, as I do with all my guests, we love to talk about the present and the future, but we got to go all the way back to where it started. I mean, but before the beard, we're going to take it all the way back.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I definitely, I would love for you kind of to give me a background of where, how bachata entered into your life, and how did you really find that connection and that partnership with George and Alemana?
Yeah, well, for those of you who don't know, I'm proudly half Puerto Rican. My mama's Boricua, Paqueto, La Fepa, and my father's Dominican from Santiago. El Cibao is in the building. So I'm fortunate, I believe, to have the best of both worlds because those are two amazing islands and two beautiful cultures. And to have had exposure to both of those from my birth has been a blessing. And I'm really thankful for that. So I've been dancing and listening to salsa, bachata, merengue my whole life. In terms of what we do as the dance scene, the more studio structure and professional dancing, that really started for me in 2006. is when I took my first basic step class. Shout out to Daniel Pineda. Always show love to whoever taught you your first
Yes.
basic, you know. He's a wonderful Mexican brother in Tampa, Florida. And I started with him. And then, you know, from there, started taking classes, Salsa Caliente, Tato Paredes, High Park Cafe. Shout out to the OGs, Dynasty Events, Juan Nunez and Gabby, all these amazing people in the Latin dance scene in Tampa, Florida. And then, you know, building relationships. I met Ataka. We became really close friends. And at that time, we were actually working together at a mortgage company that I was vice president of. And we started seeing kind of like the writing on the wall with the financial collapse in 2008. And, you know, we just got together and said, hey, maybe we could do this dance thing if, you know, since the mortgage world is going down and the real estate is going down. And it worked out really well because, you know, from day one, we said, look, you're going to do the art side, I'll do the business side, and we'll ride this till the wheels fall off. And then that's how we got started. And very quickly, I think 3 or 6 months later, we won the lottery. And Ataka happened to meet La Alemana, and he worked his magic, and they got together and they started dancing. And ever since then, it changed our whole life. You know, without her, you know, none of this would have been possible. So really thankful they met. Their charisma and their chemistry just was off the chain. We were doing salsa and bachata at that time. So they did a salsa piece and they did a bachata piece. Mm-hmm. The bachata piece blew up, went viral, and we started getting calls from all over the world to teach bachata. So we're not going to say no to something that we love and work. So they kept working and focused more on bachata at that time in terms of traveling. But, you know, thankfully they kept training, and, you know, I'm el tigre del mambo for salsa. You know, I love mambo. I love salsa. And, you know, we stuck training in salsa, following salsa, listening to salsa. And, you know, one of the most proudest moments of our lives was when Ataka La Alemana taught at Mambo Land in Milano with Adolfo and all these amazing icons and people that we just used to watch on YouTube and idolize. And, you know, so they never gave up their salsa dream, and they performed over there. So it was just to be able to 360, be able to do both of the things that we loved at the highest level was just amazing. And, you know, it's been 12 years of grinding, working hard, and here we are. Alan Touch. Oh,
absolutely. You know, we
shout
got
out to Biscuit in a building, the UK.
Absolutely.
Past his bedtime.
Absolutely. We even have, of course, Bianca here, you know, and, you know,
that's
of course. And, you know, Profits all the way from Canada and Montreal area, you know, and realizing too is that the influence, because you say some very key points, because I definitely remember you guys hit at a perfect time when YouTube was coming out, and it was really now the mainstream was catching on. And usually those viral videos from the late 2000s were really picking up. And I believe, was it Te Extraño was the routine that they had? Yep. It was a black and white, correct?
Well, it wasn't black and white, but it was the Extraño video by Grupo Extreme.
Yes.
And, you know, it went viral. If you combine all the videos of that, you know, it was well over 100 million. But one video in particular got to, I think, 99 million is where it's at now.
Wow. And that's amazing, because a lot of people, when they talk about viral, oh, my video went viral on Facebook or YouTube. But you guys, to be honest, were like the predecessors of like really going viral, because as you said, like going from the beginning and realizing that one video kind of catapulted everything and started, because then you started getting word started to spread around the world. This wasn't now just subject to Tampa or the Florida area. Now this is a farther reach. And my question is, when you started in the Tampa area, can you give me an understanding of how was bachata dancing received in Tampa around these times?
So, you know, back then there wasn't really traditional studios, dance like salsa or bachata studios. There was only one that I knew of where somebody actually had a brick and mortar dance studio that you can go to on a regular basis. Excuse me, there was two. There was Salsa Mania and Simone Salsa. One was a Casino Rueda school, and the other one was more of a ballroom salsa. But there wasn't a lot of dance socials, so you would go dancing at the nightclubs. That's really what the salseros and bachateros at that time used to do. So we would go to a mainstream Latin nightclub on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday or Saturday, and we would just get there early before the reggaeton started. And the DJs usually used to just play salsa and bachata up until around midnight. So if you were a salsero and a bachatero, you knew that you get to the club early, maybe take a class, dance some salsa and bachata, but almost everybody danced everything. Definitely more people were dancing, as far as the dancers were dancing salsa more than bachata at that time. But people were dancing both. I know I used to be like, look, I'm gonna learn how to dance salsa so I can get people to dance bachata with me. You know what I mean? Because I already knew what the bachata do.
Yeah, you already knew what you was doing.
So that's kind of how I roll. And then, maybe once a month there would be a big monthly social or something that people would go to. But that was really how things got down. And at those socials, it was probably 70-80% salsa music with, maybe 20% bachata sprinkled in.
Yeah, and for me too, I would love to know then when you started seeing the promotion, especially what Island Touch was doing specifically with bachata, and now you had the opportunity to teach. What was those first experiences like of really traveling and kind of putting your name out there? Was the reception overall just positive, or was there some confusion? Because again, we do see nowadays or around this time when it comes to bachata, and and we're going to get to this, that you really are focused on the education of bachata. And that's very important because we have things like bachata moderna, we have bachata traditional, we have, as they say, sensu bachata, trap, just different styles. But I think it's really important that people understand that when you can bring the education besides the entertainment, that's a really special thing. And for me, how was it when you guys first started traveling? What were those first experiences like?
Well, at the very, very beginning, I wasn't even pro dancing. I was just focused on the business stuff and DJing locally. I use quotes on the DJing because you got to be careful what you say, you whiz. Because where I'm from, DJs be like,
yeah,
I don't do that. I'm not a turntablist. Shout out to my boy Immersive, though, who'll get down and dirty with anybody, same as Joe Z. But anyways, so Ataca la Alemana were really the ones who, at the very, very beginning, they were on the cutting edge of the traveling at first. And, they were traveling mostly to bachata people or bachata events, weekenders, people inviting them to that. And the receptions were amazing. The first event that I went to personally was the Sexy Latin Festival in London. And again, it was a bachata event, so it was all love. Everything was really cool. We did do an all-star weekend with Kelvin Harris and Earl Gogo Rush in Mexico, where it was kind of like a hybrid event, and they had salsa and bachata. And again, it was all love from when I was there in terms of the events that we were going to. Now, some of the established salsa events, or if you went to some of the salsa socials, like, we had a couple of opportunities to go to New York City and go to some of the socials. And they didn't want to hear bachata. They didn't want to hear salsa romantica, let alone bachata. These brothers was like, if you don't give me 120 BPM so I can pretend I'm Yamu layup in this, then I don't want to hear it. So it was.
Oh my God!
It was a little challenging in the beginning for sure. Anything that was sexy and swaggy.
No, honestly, and what you're saying, it brings back memories because we talked privately, but that event specifically, the All-Star Weekend, I was there when I was in a group, a 3-man group called East Side Edition, and I remember meeting you guys because it was like an all-white party, and I remember just everybody was kind of fixated on you guys, and me and my guys from New York were like, "Who are these guys that everybody's looking at?" Because at that time, what you said was key. During those times, bachata was not on the same wavelength or level. It was salsa was the override. Salsa was what it was. Bachata was kind of looked down upon, not from my standpoint, but a lot of organizers.
Yeah.
But I really respected that organizers like Earl Rush and Kelvin Harris saw,
and even some artists.
Yes.
You know who you are.
Yes.
Some of the artists were kind of looking down at the bachateros.
Absolutely. But we also can talk about too, and later on, is that like you said, you started out as a salsero. And many people
Well, I'm
who are
still a salsero. I'm
absolutely
el tigre del mambo.
mambo.
Still here. We
Yes,
ain't leave salsa.
for me, it's like seeing that a lot of our amazing bachata dancers had a background with the salsa dancing, but understanding the scene. You weren't like a fresh person, like, hey, I dance bachata, I'm just entering. No, you had a scene you were a part of in Florida, but then also traveling. But then just you're noticing too that a lot of people are receptive, but there are also a lot of people in your community that aren't receptive.
Yeah,
And
for
having
sure.
that event was special because meeting you guys and realizing I think you guys were like the only bachata team group there, from my recollection, and seeing just the impact and looking
There
at.
was a couple. Shout out to Leo Gringuito. I remember he was there for
Okay,
sure.
yes,
And I think there might have been one more OG because obviously Lee's from DC, and
hmm
Lee's been a pioneer. He was been doing this before us long time. He's a grinder, and he's also played a major role in helping push bachata forward. So I remember Lee was there.
yeah,
I can't remember if there was anybody else though.
yeah,
But yeah,
because
it was like 2 out of 15,
yes,
something like that.
out of and we come
Yeah.
and we also me and you come from the era when it was 20, 30 plus shows a night,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
waiting backstage and like, all right, when we're about to go on and when we're doing this. But it was really special for me because that was my first sight of you guys, and seeing that you were a part of a salsa collective with Earl and Kelvin, and they were meshing the bachata with the salsa, and seeing the reception that people were giving you, not just on the stage, but off the stage. And kind of that was my first recollection of, wow, these guys are really getting amazing appreciation off the stage, and they're great at socializing with people. Rather than be kind of guarded and to yourselves, I really saw that you were receptive to people and love to socialize, and that really caught my eye. And especially like you said, again, we realized in New York, as many people knew, salsa was king at one point, and that's what it was. But I really, for me, I would say after maybe when the 2010s started to hit, but also Island Touch as a whole started to branch out, you slowly started to see pockets of bachata lingering and started to manifest itself. And for me, a question I have is, when did you feel for yourself in terms of the DJing aspect? Because we can talk about the dancing, but with DJing, that you started to really gain that following.
Yeah, so I kind of start a lot of the things that I've done in the dance scene in terms of me personally be involved and doing it myself, DJing, dancing, teaching, emceeing, was kind of out of necessity, and just seeing that, hey, we need this, or we see a lack, somebody, let's help them out. This is something I think I could do. But that was never really my plan. I never thought that I was going to be out there actually with George and Tanya out in the scene. I was going to be more of a behind the scenes kind of guy. But I would say about 2010 is when we really I started getting calls and people, saying, let's bring Island Touch. We also started doing pro shows as a team. That really helped get the promoters, because when we first started, nobody wanted to pay. I remember all the DJs were off stage. The bachata DJs were like, it was like, hey, there's a closet over here. We're going to run the aux cable. Just, if you need water, ring this bell. We'll throw somebody in, some water in there. And I just saw that, and I was like, yo, I come from the hip hop background. A family of musicians, and to me, music is always king. We are dancing and interpreting what we're listening to with our bodies. So the music is arguably the most important thing. And promoters at that time, I don't think they realized that. They were just, my cousin has an iPod. Let me just have him come and DJ, and I'll save some money. So we were able to leverage and twist, and we try to kind of create a DJ, make the DJ put him in his place. I was like, yo, I'm not, unless I get on stage, we're not coming. You got to start paying, and we kind of started building a brand around a bachata DJs. I saw some of the salsa DJs doing it. My cousin is Henry Knows, and
Oh wow!
he's kind of like,
oh wow!
yeah,
That's man. See that you throwing gems in there. That's crazy. That's like, Henry Knows is infamous, but See,
Yeah,
now
and
you're hearing this
he kind
first.
of he had that salsa swag and kind of like that salsa celebrity. And you see these salsa DJs, they were doing that, getting paid, and they weren't doing that for the bachata DJ. So that was something that early on I took on. But it's about presentation, dressing up. I would come, the salsa DJs looked like they were about to go to the gym. And I was like, nah, son, I'm showing up in a suit. We're going to represent. We're going to give them a show. I want to be announced before I go on my set. Ataka would grab the mic. Alemana would come on. We'd do some shines before and to just kind of create a buzz around the DJs. And I think that helped me, start getting a following and get kind of looked at as, oh, wow, that's a DJ, a bachata DJ.
Yeah. And I mean, as you being a DJ and then that transition of them becoming an MC, how did that, was that kind of like a spur of the moment thing that kind of caught on, or was it something that you really felt in your heart like, hey, now I can take a different lane and do something like this?
Yeah, well, again, it was kind of out of necessity. I since I grew up a hip hop head, so, MC for me is spitting bars, knowing how to grab the mic and do what you do when you do it. And so I've always been extremely comfortable with a microphone in my hand and talking and doing public speaking. I actually, done public speaking at university level. And so when we started doing our festivals, Ataka La Hermana performing, they got to get ready. So I was like, all right, well, why don't you MC? You could do it. So I started doing it at our festivals first. And then I think people really started seeing the added value and my approach to MCing, which is, my approach to MCing is I'm here to communicate and let y'all know what's happening, what's important, and keep the shows moving. At least here in the US, especially where we have 158,000 shows a night, is the last thing we need is for the MC to do 20 more shows. And this is real talk. I've done 46 shows in the same amount of times as I've seen other people do 15 shows. So,
wow.
I think organizers started seeing that and people started going, wow, we can have 40 shows and still be done by 11 and get the social dancing earlier, because that's really what the people are there for, bar none. The overwhelming majority of people that come to festivals, they just want to dance and have a good time. So as I started doing that, and then at the same time was using the platform of being an MC to help address some of the issues that our people are experiencing in our community, and trying to just shed some light on some of these issues and kind of nudge people who were maybe going to make a bad idea or a mistake that night, think twice, or maybe get some people to go, oh yeah, you know what, I'm going to check out, and hey, where you going? You need help? You need me to walk you to your room? So I think that's kind of what helped me transition into the MC. But again, it started with necessity as far as needing an MC for our events.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're definitely going to get into like the discussions that you bring upon stage that really impact the spectators and the dancers alike. But I think something you said also earlier was really key was you, Ataka La Hermana, when you guys were solidified there in the beginnings, you really brought a sense of class and dignity. And what I mean by that is what you said with how you wore or how you dressed. Because it is true, as a person like myself from New York in the salsa scene, for a long time, most events, you saw people coming in like they were going to the gym. You had your tank tops, you had your sweatpants, and you had your dance shoes. But I really, and don't get me wrong, a lot of salsa events and congresses, people would dress up, but overall you would kind of see that sort of stigma there. But I really started to see, especially when it came to the bachata scene slowly creeping and having people like you guys come around, was you started to have a new atmosphere, a new kind of, let's really dress up to these events that we go to these congresses, because it's representation. It's how you represent yourself on, but also off the stage.
Yeah, for sure.
And I appreciate that. I've seen you many times talk about to the guests, especially the men, saying, hey, when you come to these events, come looking your best, come representing yourself well. Of course, you're going to dance, you're going to sweat, but come, looking right, smelling right, dressing right, acting right. And again, like when we talked about hygiene was a very big topic, because as we dance for hours and hours, those are discussions that we have in our hotel rooms about, hey, maybe this should change. But what I appreciated was you were starting the conversations that maybe for some were uncomfortable but needed to be talked about. And you being an MC and having the social responsibility of bringing forth not just the dancers on and off stage in a timely fashion, but finding those times to relay some messages that could help people. I think that was really, really key. And I also, right now, we have a question. We have a statement, but a question by Martin Rivera Baldera, all the way from Rhode Island. He says, Saludos, Diamond. Thank you for providing these segments. My direct comment to Rudi is thank you for starting the conversations during events where the topic of sexual appropriation needed to be had. I want to ask where he personally stood with the topic of toxic masculinity within the bachata world.
Well, I'm as a Latin American, unfortunately, our culture has and suffers from a lot of toxic masculinity. I grew up watching it from, my mom and my dad split up when I was very young. So I grew up early on with boyfriends that my mom was having in the house. And I just, saw her being mistreated, seeing people put hands on her. I've had to, at 13 years old, taking blows and protecting your mom and seeing things like that. And, for whatever reason, somebody got through to me. And when I had the choice, I very early on when I was very young, my girlfriend got pregnant when I was 15 years old and had a daughter. And I looked at her and I had to make a decision. I said, all right, I've seen all these examples of men in my life. Do I want to do that? Or can I try to be different? Mm-hmm. And I've been far from perfect, but that's really where I'm at. There's definitely in society in general, a lot of times I see people, and I'm not saying the gentleman that left that comment is doing that, singling out the bachata scene. But sometimes when we see issues within our community, some people do try to isolate it and make it seem like it's our community's problem when these are really just general problems. We have a toxic masculinity problem in the US and in many parts of the world. But yes, I agree. We have one. I personally don't believe in that. I think I believe in equality. I believe that, if everyone, whether they're male, female, or anything in between, if we just treat other people the way we want to be treated, we're not going to have any issues. And if we just allow people to express themselves free from judgment and support them when they're up as well as when they're down, I think a lot of these problems will work themselves out. Education is key as well. But yeah, I agree with you, brother. I think there's a toxic masculinity problem. And I personally am trying to lead by example and then also address it as best as I can when I can and leverage the platform that we've been given through dance to try to be one drop in the bucket to make the scene a better place.
Absolutely. And for me, besides just even the messages that you laid on the stage and the impact that all of you as a whole were laying, but then I think a really transitional point was when you guys started the actual dance company and having the choreographies of what Island Touch was doing now being produced by other cities and other countries. I think that to me was a game changer because, other schools would have a school in one other city or two other cities at most. But what I noticed, it really kind of took off like wildfire was, especially with Island Touch and Ataca Alemana, was when you had these routines coming and then you had franchises everywhere. And I think that was really for me, and I saw that through social media especially, is the global reach and the name that Island Touch as a whole, because it wasn't just them Ataca Alemana as dancers, but it was also at Tiguere. It was you being the MC, you being the DJ, but at first realizing that you wanted to come from a behind the scenes approach, but out of necessity, you started to build a name for yourself, but in a humble way. And it wasn't like, hey, I see what they're doing and now I have to do me. At first you said I wanted to take a back seat and work and help the brand, but out of necessity, you becoming a figure like you are yourself, but now creating a dance company that had pockets in different parts of the world. So I really wanted to know, this is a question I definitely have for years, was what was it like, those first, the franchises of Island Touch? How was that process like?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm really not a humble person. I just am I'm very self-aware
Mm-hmm.
and there's always levels to this. So I can't be walking around with a big head. You talk about our video going viral and stuff. We're like, yeah, that's cute. 90 million views. That's amazing. I don't want to downplay it. But,
Yeah.
there's artists who do 100 million views in a week. So
Yeah.
I think if you just always understand and approach things as, look, I'm not trying to be number one. I just want to do me. And if I have success, great. But instead of trying to focus on the success, dwell on it or flaunt it, just focus on getting better and being honest and true to yourself. I think that's really where it's at. So, and that's kind of been my approach. And that's what's kind of worked for me is just, look, because I'm doing so many things, I'm never going to be the best at any one of these things. Let me just do these things to the best that I can and as honestly to my personality as I can. With respect to the franchise teams, that would, when we first started day one, La Alemana is very charitably driven. She's very excited and gets very passionate about giving back and helping others. And so from day one, we were always like, look, touch the world is part of our brand, part of who we are. We want to be global. We started with the end in mind. That's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And so what better way to do that than to franchise yourself and to say, hey, look, we can have people all over the world that represent us that also have our mindset of touching the world. Our franchise teams have Touch the World Week where they did community service, local community service, so that they were directly impacting the communities that they lived in. So I think the franchise teams came from us saying, hey, we want to have a global impact. And then secondly, my goal has always been to empower the artists. I've seen a lot of artists back then and even now who financially just are being abused. They're being taken advantage of. They're being manipulated, or sometimes just they don't know enough business to protect themselves, and they get in the way of themselves. And the franchise team back then, before we started the franchise team, the artists had to go physically somewhere most of the time to make money. Back then, there wasn't a lot of online classes. There were some very savvy, smart people who were making money online, but most people either didn't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, or the information. Luckily, I had an information system management degree from the University of South Florida, so I kind of always had an online mentality, a digital thing. So that's why we started our YouTube channel in 2009 or whatever it was. We've been doing all the online stuff. We've been doing online classes for years, but most people weren't doing that. So I said, okay, for people who aren't technologically savvy or can't do that, how can we empower them? Franchise teams was one of the first ways that someone who made a name for themselves can make residual income. You know how they come knock down at your door. Hey, you should come to my house. I want to explain to you a way to make money while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, you had a couple family members hit you up or some long lost friends, be like, how you been? You need to come to my house.
Yeah,
let me show you how to make money.
Talk about, I want you to make money. I want to help
I want to help you make money by giving me your money.
Yeah.
And so I was like, look, how can we do that? And franchise teams was one of those ways. Also, I think it's extremely important for any artist who's joining this dancing to understand that entertainment is up and down. 1% make it up, and then only 1% of that 1% stay up, and 1% of that 1% that stay up until they die. Mm-hmm. And so it's extremely important to have a long-term plan on how to make money still doing what you love, because that's why most of us got into this. It's because, wow, I love dancing. How amazing would it be for me to live off of dancing? But if you don't have a plan B, or what if you get hurt, or what if you just ain't cute no more and nobody wants to hire you? What you gonna do then? So again, the franchise teams, the events, those were ways that we came up with at the very beginning to levelize our revenue streams and diversify our income.
Yeah, and I think it was awesome that you talked about how you really capitalized on hitting that digital media, because having a background in it and realizing like, hey, we need to, if we capitalize on this now and already we're traveling 10 plus years later where we're kind of at now, or a little bit over, you're seeing the overall, the analytics, and seeing the how far your talents, how far your impact goes. Because also too, people have to remember is that even though we had Ataca La Mana, but then you started to branch out and become a notable figure in the dance world as well, because you started to teach, and you started to do classes, and you started to have your own little franchise groups within. And I think that was really notable because, again, as you said, you wanted to be the behind the scenes person in the beginning, but I think it was kind of divine intervention, and everything happens for a reason. And seeing that with you being an MC and how vibrant and how inclusive you are, and how kind of just sociable you are, I think that really helped as well bring a lot of people in and feel secure and feel happy. Because again, you guys, in my eyes, and this is from my point of view, really, especially in New York, the East Coast and the West Coast, you really gave a comfort to the elevation of the bachata scene. It didn't feel forced. It felt very comfortable. It felt very gradual. And I would say, like you said, in the 2010s, kind of going further, then you started to see, hey, a bachata festival, a bachata weekender, a bachata congress. And for me, coming from the salsa world and talking to many salseros, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of them would say, oh, you know, they just got a room. And that if you want to go there, you can go there. But then you started to see people say, hey, I can dance the 10 salsa songs, but I want to breathe it. Let me go into this room and see what it's about. And then you started to be honest with you, my to see the atmosphere was completely different. It was salsa was more kind of, from my point, was uptight, very just, you know, flashy, show off what you have. But then with the bachata room, it was more just chill. It was more having a good time. It was more people drinking and laughing and having fun. And that was from my standpoint, because coming from a salsa background, which you and many others in New York who are bachata dancers now came from, we can attest to, because we all came from that standpoint of when this was in a room to the side, and then you saw the shift. You saw these festivals coming, like the Tampa Festival, like Chicago, even New York, and many others that you guys are doing, and seeing that atmosphere, what it was like to attend the Bachata Congress, and also seeing now the shift of many of your salseros slowly transitioning and saying, wow, I like what I did here, but I'm loving what I'm seeing there. And see, and I can see you chuckle, because I feel like you agree with me, but you know, I want to know kind of from what your standpoint, how did you see that shift, or how did that shift come to you?
Yeah, I mean, well, a couple of things. One, the way we got started in doing our own things were, again, out of necessity. We kept getting rejected. So, for example, bachatu. We wanted to do bachatu. Before we did bachatu, there was an event in Dominican Republic. So I called the dude up and I was like, yo, I see you got an event in the Dominican Republic. I'm Dominican. I think that's amazing. I think it's extremely important that we, you know, bachata have a thriving, growing event in the DR. We want to help you guys. You know, we'll go there for free, whatever. Let's go. And he was like, you guys can pay to come, and you tell Ataca La Alemana to take some classes and learn how to teach real bachata. And then I might let you guys perform. That's what the person told me.
And before you even say anything, I'm going to say, I know who you're talking about, but let's keep on. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I was like, oh, well, you know, thank you for the offer, but yeah, we're going to have to pass. And now we're just going to do our own event. You know, same thing, you know, before we did our own events, we did the first ever bachata room at the New York International Salsa Congress. We hosted that. Island Touch hosted that bachata room. Island Touch hosted the first ever bachata room at the LA Salsa Congress. So we organized all the DJ schedules, all the workshops, the concerts for both of those events. I think 3 years for New York, 2 years for LA. And then, you know, things just didn't work out. So we're like, you know what, let's do our own thing.
Yeah.
We've been trying to do with other people, and it just hasn't been working out. So let's go ahead and do our own thing. And then when we decided to do our own thing, one of the things that we try to do is to learn from other people's mistakes and not repeat them. And, you know, one of the very important things that I was told early on by somebody was, you know, when you're on stage emceeing in the bachata room at the New York International Salsa Congress, there's a different energy and the people are following and reacting and responding to that energy. So understand you have that power and that responsibility and use it wisely. So we took that to heart and we're like, you know what? We're going to make sure that from the top up, we're going to spread and share that love and energy. And at the beginning, Ataca La Alemana used to work registration, not because we couldn't get other people to do it. It was just because we wanted to be that involved and show people, look, this is how much we care. It became unpractical because people wanted to take pictures and autographs. And so we were actually slowing down other people trying to check in. So we had to move away from that. But, you know, for us, we really do believe in top-down leadership, servant leadership, leading by example, setting the tone. And that's really worked for us. And again, learning from other people's mistakes. And not all events had that, but we definitely felt some events were very, you know, the energy was very standoffish. You know, some of the artists were just too good for other people. And, you know, dude, we're doing what we love. Yeah. Traveling and seeing the world. We should be the happiest people on earth. We should be wanting to give back and hug and high five and social dance with those people that are making that happen, not snubbing them and acting like we're too good for them. We're not too good for them. We are them. We just got lucky and are able to do what we love. So all those things together have enabled us to hopefully provide a good product that people enjoy and want to come back. At Mikey G, shout out to Mikey G. I saw he was in the comments. That's
bring Bachata back.
Listen, once this Rona goes away, I got you.
You know, and to be honest, like for me, I think one of my first events was Bachata of 2015. Ooh. But realizing for me when I went there, I totally saw the shift. And when I went to a salsa congress and when I went to not just a bachata festival, but an island touch event. And what I'm telling you, man, if you have, is that Mama Juana you have there?
That's a little rum. I ain't, you know, okay. I'm not getting paid, so I don't want to sponsor nobody. But you got to take a sip of some rum when we talk about bachata.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, the atmosphere, the energy, the people that came from all over the world. I mean, for me, having a collective of people from New York that we all came and we supported Island Touch and we loved the events. And it was a vacation for us because getting away, of course, you'll have your performances. But, you know, for the people, there were people, of course, you had your performers that would go, especially with the franchises. When I love that with Island Touch that you guys did was have routines that you allowed all of your franchises to come and be a part of. But then you also had your people that just came to party and didn't have to worry about performances and shows. And I'll tell you this, one specific, I believe it was 2015 and 2016, I believe, that, again, we have to understand in Dominican Republic, the elements are totally different from the U.S. Electricity is different. Everything is but one thing I'll tell you this, to be honest, and I think it was a day the time you had Joe Veras. I think you had Joe Veras there. It was one of those artists. I remember that the generators kept going in and out, and you kept, you know, saying, you know, what I loved was that you were just being real. You were like, this is DR. This is not the Hilton in New York.
Listen, those people, they're like, yo, I want real bachata, Dominican bachata. And I'm like, well, the light's going off. That's Dominican bachata right there. Se fue la luz, player. Oh, what happened? You all bougie? No, there's no AC in real bachata. You want traditional, but this is it. This is as country as you can get. This is as real as you can get. And we struggle with that. And, you know, I when I would go to the DR, I used to go visit family, so I didn't really stay at the hotels a lot. So I thought all the hotels had generators or whatever. And I also learned that, you know, Punta Cana and Boca Chica are two different things. So like, in Punta Cana, when the lights go off, the hotel doesn't shut down.
But you know, to me, like I loved was that the atmosphere, that the people around each other, we understood, but we loved that you cared for the people. And that you not just were just the MC, but you were there with us at the pool party, socializing. You were there with us on the dance floor, socializing and treating us like family, because it's very easy for someone to say, hey man, you're like a brother, you're like family. But to say we see you at Bachatu, and if we see you at another event, it's like you remember us. And it's like that kind of feeling that you gave myself and a lot of other dancers that really supported Island Touch and what you were doing was amazing, because especially in our dance culture, dancers come and go. So everybody's coming in and fluctuating. So you're meeting new people all the time, but it's those same type of people that come into your events and are dedicated spectators and attendees that will come from Florida and travel to LA or travel to DR. And I really loved, especially in Bachatu, was the influence of the people that live there too, that were also coming to support. Because that's a really important thing, because having an event in DR, without the people from DR, they would feel different. But to have the people driving from their homes and seeing their families, because I remember too, you had the children musical groups up there from Dominican Republic, and that was amazing. And that was amazing because it showed how invested you were in your community.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we believe in walking the walk. I mean, talk is extremely important. Obviously, I talk a lot, maybe sometimes too much, but you got to back it up. Talking without actions is not worth anything. So when we did an event in the DR, the first thing we decided was it needs to represent the DR. It needs to have representation. It needs to be beneficial and impactful to the. And I've told all the directors of the dance studios over there, I was like, look, I never want to hear that a Dominican citizen or resident does not go to Bachatu because they don't got the money. You let me know. Nobody, they can come in for free. Your whole school could come in for free if they have to, because we're not here to get your money. We're here to give back because you've blessed us with this genre of music and this dance that has enabled us to see the world. And then also giving the people an opportunity to see, Joe Veras, El Torito, Luis Vargas, Anthony Santos, Yoscar Sarante, Luis Segura, Edilio Paderes, like all these people live 10 feet away from you, where even if you were in the nosebleeds, you were still closer than you're ever going to get to some of these guys in the city at Madison Square Garden, because most congresses aren't going to pay the 30 grand that it costs to bring some of these guys. And we just, made a decision that was our way to give back culturally to the DR and impact the economy there, but also to give the people who come from outside to the DR. But for us, it was also about balance. Look, we played bachata remixes and covers in Bachatu. Like, we were jamming out. Like, we really try to stay away from the extremes, and we try to be as much of a unifying force as possible. But we don't allow bongo chata. No
no bongo.
No bongo chata. No bongo chata.
and I think that really is another key point you said, was because also people realize that Island Touch was, as they considered, bachata moderna. A lot of people would say, but also you being inclusive, but creating also, I've heard of the team bachata, and now you being a DJ, having the soul tricks, the immersives in this collective of DJs, not just bachata DJs, but DJs, but realizing how impactful having that kind of collective can be, because these are the people that feed the souls of our dancers on these dance floors. These are the people that keep the dancers dancing from, start of the social all the way to 5 to 6 in the morning sometimes. And realizing that,
for sure.
Yeah, and realizing that even with having, the Anthony Santos, the Joe Verases, and that music from the early 90s, but then you're realizing the generation is changing. You're having more the Romeo Santos, the Prince Royces, the JRs, the Johnny Skies coming along, and realizing like, wow, now we have to adapt, and we're evolving, and music is evolving. And I think for me, bachata remixes is one of those things that really transitioned and helped people, because honestly, a lot of people, if you don't know, a lot of people who dance bachata sometimes don't know Spanish. So listening to an English remix into a bachata format, or with bachata beats under it, it was a easier interpretation for them, and it was more like, okay, I can connect to this. And I noticed too is that, again, having these remixes, but you also stating in your emceeing about this and talking about this, because you didn't want to get the message lost of, oh, you heard this remix, this is what bachata is. No, I loved how you explained the meaning of bachata and what bachata really was.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when I first, I don't know if I was the first DJ to play a bachata remix at a festival, but I remember when promoters used to, bachata promoters used to hit me up and say, make sure you don't play too many remixes. And I remember specifically saying, look, first of all, I don't think I play too many remixes. I try to have a balanced set, but whatever. But the reason why I play the remixes, one, some of them are just dope, but two, I'm as a DJ, you see everything that's going on in the room. You see all the way to the back, and you know what the energy and what the vibe is. And I remember being in Europe. That's mainly where I used to play the remixes at first, was in Europe. In the US, I didn't play them as much because in the US there was a lot more Latins at the socials. But in Europe, I realized when I played Stand By Me, they were singing when they were dancing. And I used to say, yo, they don't normally do that because they don't speak Spanish. So by playing a song that has English words in it, we're enabling them to truly feel that essence of enjoying bachata, because there's nothing like enjoying music when you're singing it, you know, when you just, that's your jam and you're like, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do as humans. We sing stuff that moves us, and you had this whole group of people who weren't able to do that. Now, with that said, I don't want to go to the extreme where it's now all English because everyone that's English, you know, which is why I started doing bachata for gringos. And I started actually interpreting the Spanish words for non-Spanish speaking people so that they could understand. And also to kind of let people know that, you know, that song that you think is really cute and it's so lovey-dovey and it's beautiful. It's actually about a guy who hates his ex. Yes. So relax. I can't dance it the way you're dancing it right now because I'm not feeling that energy. I'm feeling like, oh, yeah, I remember when they did that to me.
Yeah, and people have to understand, like, you know, with bachata music, a lot of it is due on heartbreak,
definitely the older stuff for sure. The newer stuff is more, you know, the older stuff is like, oh, I can't believe what she did to me or what I did to her. The newer stuff is like what I want to do to you. You know, Romeo and Royce is definitely a lot more R&B swag, where you're trying to get somebody to fall in love with you and you're trying to win somebody versus more of explaining your heartbreak and your history.
Absolutely.
You know, old school bachata to me is like country music and the blues. New school bachata is like R&B and pop.
And I love that comparison. But I think you also said something very pivotal, was the difference between the US and the European scene. 100%. And that's what a lot of people, what I love is asking my guests, especially ones like you that traveled, not just say have an opinion on what they think, but a person who has gone and they know. And for me, I would love to know from your standpoint, did you feel a big difference between the US scene and the European scene in terms of bachata?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, back then especially, right? Like it was a lot easier to play more traditional music in the US than in Europe, just because the people grew up listening. Your mom and dad got busy to that back in the day, right? So you've heard that, and it was a lot easier for people to feel that vibe. And in Europe, they really weren't doing that. It was a lot more standoffish. They wanted more of that, you know, Daniel Santa Cruz vibe, right? Which is beautiful, but it's a different kind of vibe. I call it more of like a romantic bachata, a ballady bachata. So that was one big difference. Now there's definitely some cultural differences in terms of how people approach dancing in general. The workshops are way more packed in Europe. People are much more concerned with actually learning how to dance versus the US. I see more people like, I already know how to dance. I grew up doing that. Check out my 1, 2. Look at the little hip thrust. I got this. Just throw the music on. Let me get busy. So you see, you know, workshops that have 200-300 people in the US, and you have workshops that have 1,000 people in Europe. At a festival that has 1,400 people in Europe, they'll have 1,000 people in a workshop. And in the US, you have a festival that has 3,000 people there, and the biggest class has 250 people in it. So it really is night and day. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people start speaking on the scene globally when their context is local. And it's okay to talk about your community, but don't start speaking about the whole scene when you really only know about your community. You've been there. Don't try to start speaking now, oh, bachata, when you've been to 3 socials, one uptown, one downtown, and one on the west side, and all of a sudden you're a bachata expert globally. Explícamelo.
What you're saying is pure facts, because again, we have that, especially in our scene, is we have the purists, we have the historians, we have the enthusiasts, we have people that feel, because they also are Dominican, that they feel, especially with the bachata dancing, they feel that they know everything.
Yeah.
And that can be a very thin line, because with people like yourselves, and I would say this, is that Island Touch as a whole was very pivotal in bringing the mainstream of our dance scene to light. Because
well, thank you.
Yeah, and I really mean that, because what I didn't know about a bachata scene in Cadiz until I saw you guys on a boat. I didn't know about the Croatian events until I saw you guys performing and traveling and doing demos. And I'm saying, wow, I didn't realize this impact. But then also, later on with you now teaching, and then also with you and your partnership with Bianca, realizing that now you and Ataka Lamana and you and Bianca, now you guys were a force, a true force. It was 2 different couples that had their own styles that were able to collaborate, but were also to remain somewhat different and have a different type of energy. And I loved, especially because I believe you guys had a really big impact on the DC scene, specifically from my standpoint, because I saw you guys were doing a lot of
DC.
You guys were doing the Island Touch DC collective, where also Ace Fusion was a part in that. Specifically, a person I had on this interview and spoke so highly of you all, and realizing how much of an impact and how much appreciation a lot of those dancers there have. Because again, you guys came to DC and you were able to connect with the dancers there. And I mean, to see now what DC has come of, like, they have some fierce dancers, but also some fierce DJs out there.
Yeah, look, real quick, just to rewind before we get to DC. Just because somebody says they're Dominican doesn't mean they know anything about bachata. The two of the most knowledgeable people that I know are Adam Taub and Benjamin, and they not Dominican. Now, with that said, obviously it is irreplaceable, or there is something special and unique to talk to someone from the island who grew up there. That is something you can't duplicate, but that's just a perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean expertise. So that's just really important, because nowadays I've been seeing some people just, oh, hey, I'm Dominican, let me take your money and teach you about bachata. Nah, son, back up. But as far as DC is home. That's my family. We actually lived in DC for a couple years, and honored, blessed, fortunate, thankful to be there at the salsa room from its inception. I remember Franco coming to me and saying, hey, look, I'm thinking about doing a bachata night on Wednesdays. What do you think? And I was like, I'm there. Let's do it. Bachata, that's what's up. I'm home every Wednesday. We leave normally on Thursday or Friday. I'm always going to be here. It could be consistent. And that's how the salsa room got started. I think we had like 15 or 20 people on the first night, on the first Wednesday. And we were grinding for every week for a couple of years. And now the salsa room is probably one of the biggest bachata nights in the entire United States. And, definitely up there in the world. That Italy has some bachata nights that are crazy. They got nights where it's like 1,000 people on every week. It's just another level in Europe. But in the US, salsa room is tops, not just in terms of number, but in terms of quality. The dance floor is all wood. You have the vibe. Franco's always put the quality and the sound and the lights, and it's just always been a vibe. And then you definitely have some extremely, extremely talented people coming out of there. And my brother from another, mano de lo mío personal, DJ Immersive, your favorite DJ's favorite DJ, is right there from DC, the Salsa Room. Viva la bachata, una vaina ratata.
Absolutely, because to be honest, Salsa Room, I saw it on YouTube, but then also seeing the shared videos that you had and just seeing the atmosphere, like the lighting was perfect, the music was on point, but also the atmosphere in terms of the theming, because I think that was essential, because the promotional aspect of how the Salsa Room did with the pajama nights, but also the flyers were very sleek and chic. And I love that because you guys did really push that envelope and push that sexiness forward, and it worked perfectly.
And that's all Franco. Real talk. He creates the flyers. He's just a genius at what he does. And a lot of people, I don't think so. The Salsa Room is iconic in terms of bachata, and it is now globally iconic. But in salsa, it's even bigger. He's had Mark Anthony there, Celia Cruz, like Frankie Ruiz. The Salsa Room has been around forever, and they just love music and they love a vibe. And that was one of the things that Franco, when he first came up to me and talked to me about the night, he's like, yo, I love your energy. I like the way you dress up. I like that you guys just go back to that old school, that Palladium thing, which is one of the things that was kind of weird to me when I would go to some of the salsa socials and seeing people dressed down. I'm like, yo, the Palladium, they were in 3-piece. Everybody was like, I'm about to go through this. Afro Latinos, we proud people. We dress up. We want to look cute. We want to look fly. It's not just about being good. It's about looking good. So that was really weird. But Franco knew that from the jump, and he himself. So again, it's always about the top down, and he's always been about class, sexy, swag, all the way through from your marketing to the actual customer experience. And it was really a match made in heaven. The Salsa Room and Island Touch, it was just awesome. And yes, the pajama Tigre birthday parties are
infamous.
It's a thing.
Yeah, and at least before we transition into the present day and towards the future, I really would love for you, because I've seen your moments when you MC and you give us these messages that I've been talking about, but I would love for you to kind of give a little more clarification and context on the messages that you really feel that are important to spread during the events that we have.
I just keep my eyes open. Some of this stuff is from mistakes that I've personally made. Like, I had to learn the hard way that catcalling is inappropriate. You grow up I'm from the hood. In the hood, it's hey, mommy, get okay. And a sister had to sit me down and go, yo, that's disrespectful. Don't do that. And it's like, okay, having an open mind, listening and hearing, and then changing yourself first. But most of these things come from stuff I observe on the dance floor. In my classes, I see guys, all up in a person's face, and you're like, you could see that the person doesn't want that. So it's like, hey, let me help you read body language. When someone goes like this,
they're not enjoying.
They don't like it. They don't like it. Man, not just because a girl wants to dance bachata with you don't mean she want to have sex with you, fellas. And I talk a lot. 99% of what I say is to the men, because 99% of the problems that I observe are caused by the men. So that's, ladies, it's not that I love you, ladies. It's just, I want to strike at the root of the problem. And most of the problems that we're experiencing in our scene are caused by the men. Back to that toxic masculinity stuff. So, smelling, stank. I'm dancing with somebody. I'm like, yo, deodorant is not that expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like you
could go back to your
hotel room, a little bit on. Just
it's true. It's
your
true.
Hotel room is right there, player. Like go,
just freshen up a little bit, come back.
Wow.
We could. But I think
some
also
people got the halitosis on fleek too.
God.
I'm like, gum, borrow gum. You could borrow gum. Like, yo, can I borrow some gum? What the? Well, maybe not borrow it. That's nasty, especially now with Corona. But can you give me some gum, please?
I have some gum, please, man. But I think it's really important because, again, some people think those are uncomfortable topics. But to be honest, with you having that social responsibility on that stage with that mic in your hand, you're able to help people because what you're talking about are messages that are being told to you privately of like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's wrong. And the fact that you're addressing these concerns, I love it. because you know how to say it in a comfortable way, but an honest way. And that I think is really amazing because again, a lot of MCs don't get is that utilizing your time on that stage is very important. Like you said, going from a 46-man show and making it fit into the same time format as a 15-man show or 15 group show is important because the audience's attention span is very quick.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the reason why I also don't speak a lot in between shows is because when I speak, I want people to listen to what I'm saying. I want them to really remember. But don't get it twisted. It's not like it's popular. And no shade to the other MCs. I understand why a lot of MCs don't say some of this stuff because promoters used to tell me not to talk about this stuff. Yeah, can you not? It's and you know, thankfully, we've gotten to a place in our careers where I could be like, well, then don't hire me because I have to say it. I feel a moral responsibility when I get on that stage as part of my job is to communicate some of these things because they're happening. We're having these problems. There's women that are being abused. There's men who are overstepping their bounds. And if people don't speak about it publicly, then it's going to take a lot longer for these issues to be addressed. So, but yeah, I mean, it just, unfortunately, some people aren't empowered or some people, you know, feel they have too much to lose to do it. So I'm not mad at nobody who doesn't do it. I'm just thankful that I've been put in a position where I can say, hey, if you don't let me say this, then I'm gonna walk, but I'm gonna say it. And I'll try to say it in a way that people will actually hear it because, you know, you can't just get up there and start preaching like we at church on Sunday. If you dijo que tú, you know, like, hey, bájale algo, manita.
Yeah,
so, you know, I grew up listening to stand-up comedy with my father every weekend. And that was like, we would binge watch stand-up comedy. So I stole a lot of my material from these greats like George Carlin, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle. You know, these are people that, you know, Bill Burr, these are just people that I really, really like. And I studied the way they talk. And I realized that when you say things with a little bit of humor, people are going to listen, are more likely to listen. Not everything could be funny. And you also have to be careful in context. But, you know, we also learn from our mistakes. Sometimes I make it sound good. Sometimes I make it sound bad. I'm sorry when I make it sound bad. I really am.
Man, and that's amazing that you even talked about how stand-up comedy kind of influenced you, especially now with your emceeing. And a question I definitely have before we kind of get into the present day is with all the events, and I know this may be a very hard question, but all of the events you have gone to, all of the events you have hosted, all of the events you have organized or helped organize, what are maybe one specific event or what are some of the events that just really have like a lasting memory in your mind? I know it can be all of them, but are there any events specific?
Well, look, I'm going to be as honest as I can. The most fun I've ever had an event is Bachatu. I'm sorry. I know we did it, but it is. And it was. It's crazy. If you haven't been to Bachatu, don't say it's not because you don't know what it is. But when people are playing beer pong 15 minutes before the show start, you notice some shit that's different, okay? So in terms of just, you know, having, I remember when we had Jehu, Tu sing me y que habla con tu amor. The salsero was singing and the lights went off and his band took out their cameras and put the lights of their camera on and they did a live set with just the percussion and homeboys. Like, where else does that happen but Bachatu? Exactly. So that's that. The best all around event in terms of professionalism, size, quality, the standard of events, in my opinion, is the Croatia Summer Sensual Days into the Croatia Salsa Festival. I definitely admire those people. I study them. Every time I go there, I'm taking notes, I'm learning, I'm being inspired, and I'm growing as an organizer and as an entertainer. The best crowd, in my opinion, from what I have seen, okay? I don't want no cities to be all mad. I love you. Your city's better than the one I'm about to say. I'm just saying, this is my experience. Yeah. Is Chicago.
Chicago Bachata Salsa Fest.
What? It's Sunday night. And the first show, and people are getting, it sounds like you in Madison Square Garden, the social dancing, the after parties, shots. And it's not just our festival. I hear the same thing because there's 2 festivals in Chicago. Yes. There's one in February and there's one in April. And both of them are lit because it's the same people that are there. It's that Chi City dance community that is absolutely amazing. They make you feel the love. And then honorable mention to Bachata Day in Milano. First of all, the city of Milano is just the food of Italians know how to cook. And, you know, just the vibe. There's 1,500, 1,800 people that all they want is bachata, 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 bachata. And that's a real special, cool thing to see and be a part of. Alessandro, the organizer, and his wife Rita and the whole staff. It's that home feeling that you feel that you said, you feel that at Bachata Day. So those are my 4 events.
That's awesome. And again, like, you know, of course you can have the plug in, but the fact that you're being honest, that means a lot, because, you know, it is important to know from the people that we admire so much, like, what's on your mind? What really intrigues you? What are you looking for? And I know the Croatian event, I think it's like a 7-day event almost.
Brother, like it's 3 weeks.
Oh my Lord.
2 cities. They start in one city, Opatia, with like 300, 400, 500 people. They got a white party on a castle, on a hill, on Sunset. And you just got this little boutique, sexy swag. They just warming you up. Then you go from there to Rovine for the first week of the Summer Essential, which used to be part of the Crystal. Now it's the second week of the Summer Essential Days. And there's 3,000 to 4,000 people there. Wow. And they got vineyard parties. They got parties in the middle of the city. It's on the ocean. And no matter where you at, you got ocean view. Ocean view. That's just week 2. Then week 3 comes and they got like 7,000 people.
Oh my God. That is.
And it's and you got in one room 2,000 to 3,000 people dancing salsa. They got Havana de Primera, like the bands are crazy. It's just that they're the gold standard of events. Yes. I'm not a hater. They got it. One day maybe we can make Chicago like that.
Yeah. And I know, honestly, one day, I promise you, man, in the future, I definitely will head out to Chicago, because I've heard so much, especially even with the work you've done. I heard it from the people from Chicago, but also from my family out in Rhode Island, with my man Brandon Contreras and that group out there, you know, with the Boston clique and the Rhode Island clique, and realizing like the impact of when you go to these type of events. They come all the way from Rhode Island and Boston to come to Chicago. And honestly, I've heard so much great things about Chicago, and I definitely, that's on my bucket list. I've seen the events, but even before we get to the present day, 2 people that I have to commend in my heart, besides Island Touch, but is also the Island Touch media team of Michael Mabo and Winston Glass. For me, these 2 gentlemen, to me, for years, these people have inspired me to become the videographer that I am today, because the content they put out is so genuine. It's not just as easy as turning the camera on and just pressing record. It's really the content that you guys are bringing forward and that they're editing. It really means a lot, and it's a global reach. And again, I just wanted to shed some love to them and spread some love and appreciation, because they're also responsible for putting that work out. Absolutely.
Listen, they are just as much of a part of what we do, because if people don't see what we do, you know, and Mabo and I personally have a bromance. We got I think, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago at the Reno Festival, there was a storm in Chicago and in the Northeast. So we had to spend an extra 2 days in Reno together, and we fell in love. It was awesome. But yeah, Mabo's a genius. Winston's a boss. He's hard. I mean, they just, yeah. Thank you for shouting them out.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I've known them just as long as I've known you, not as personal, but just seeing them, and like, they're just going from one position to another, and realizing the content that they create afterwards, the masterpieces that come out, are amazing. And, you know, it really kind of transitions now into understanding in our present day, and realizing that the beginning of the year in February and March, when COVID really hit and came into the US, a lot of us didn't know how it really would affect us, but realizing coming from Europe as well, because a lot of people don't understand, even though we talk about China, it actually came from Europe because most of the people that were traveling from Europe were coming into the US. But realizing now with the travel restrictions, realizing now that we don't have socials and congresses like we normally do at the same capacity, I'm realizing now we have to live under a new normal. But I think what is important is that you and also Island Touch were already on the online game already. So it wasn't kind of, oh my God, we have to adapt to something. It was, we already have this and we're going to keep it going. And I love now that you guys are really now doing your own visuals and doing your own videos to different songs. And I definitely want to commend you on that new song with Khalid, with Q and Cosmos, Melvin War, the No Guidance Bachata remix. Yes, that one is one of my favorites. Happier is another one of my favorites.
Hey.
Yeah, man. I study your music because as a videographer now, transitioning from a performer, I feel it's very important to also credit those bachata remixes from artists like you that create it to show that appreciation, because I want people to see how, again, as a videographer, it's not easy filming 80 people a night and editing it and putting it out the next day, but also blending your talents and your music into that effortlessly and feeling like everyone in that video danced to that one song the entire night and giving that atmosphere. But realizing now, again, with COVID and now us in the US not being able to travel, for you, I really wanted to know, how did that, this sudden thing that happened to us, this pandemic, how did it affect you?
Yeah. Before I get into the pandemic, thank you for the shout outs on the remixes and the covers. That also came out of necessity, right? Like, I didn't go into this thinking I'm going to executive produce or whatever. And, there was bongo chata out there. And if I'm going to be like, no bongo chata, I needed to just give an example. And so, I started calling up some of my producer friends and I'm like, look, I got a concept. Can we do this? And that's how that came about. Because again, it's very important that we as leaders or just people who want to make change, it's easy to talk about it, but sometimes you got to put the boots on the ground or your money on the table to make some of this stuff happen. So that's kind of where that came from. And before we finish, I want to talk about Grupo Extra.
Absolutely.
But back to COVID. The first thing I want to say about COVID, first of all, obviously, anyone who's been going through it, because there's so many, my heart goes out to you. I hope everyone is safe and being safe. Please try to stay positive and find the silver linings in this extremely unique, difficult times. With that said, for us personally, number one, I would never judge anyone who is forced to make a decision about COVID as a result of their financial situation. Some people are out there having to do things that they might not be doing if they weren't put in a financial situation. And that's the leadership of our government stuff. I don't want to get political with it, but the bottom line is I'm not here to judge nobody who's doing what they got to do.
Yeah.
But for us personally, as challenging as this time has been, we recognize how fortunate and blessed we are to be able to take those precautions. And, since March 11th, we have been in full lockdown at the house. People want us to go and do things. And we're just like, look, unfortunately, we personally don't feel comfortable and we don't have to. Yeah. So we kind of want to lead by example. And I just, hope everybody is safe. This is a very unique thing because it hits so many people so differently. And you just never know whether you might be the person that's healthy that gets it the worst or the person that's sick that gets it the least. But too many people's parents and brothers and cousins and moms and sisters have died of this. And in our scene where, I just implore and ask anyone who does anything to be as safe as possible and only do things that you have to do. Get creative. Try to find, create a little bubble. I'm an NBA fan. Lakers, let's go.
Oh, you go for the Lakers.
Only because Michael retired and Chicago can't get their shit together. I don't know what's happening, but Zach LaVine ain't cutting it. I'm sorry. He's a baller, but Chicago's my team. I grew up watching them get beat up by the Pistons. And
Pistons are my team, but I mean, I'm going for the Clippers. But you know,
my dad. I remember my dad telling me the Chicago Bulls will never get a ring, and 6 rings later, yeah, take that, Dad. Anyway, Chicago's my team, but I really love LeBron James because of some of the stuff that we're talking about. He is truly a leader on and off the court. So, you know, I'm supporting the Lakers, but you know, the NBA created that little bubble, right? They're like, look, we feel we need this. Let's make it happen. Create a social bubble, and call a couple of your friends, get tested, and be like, look, we are going to protect ourselves, and now we can hang out with each other.
Exactly.
You don't necessarily have to be out there randomly and with all these people. So, anyways, again, no judgment to those who feel like they got to get out there because they got to pay the bills. But for everybody else, please, por favor, if you can't do it for you, do it for the other people. Be as safe as possible. We on some extra shit. We only deliver our groceries. We wash the groceries. No packages coming to the crib without the Lysol. We each got our roles and responsibilities on how to make it happen. Like we OD with it. We don't see family members without masks. You got to be 6 feet away. Some of our friends don't like us no more, but we trying to be as safe as possible and lead by example.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And, you know, even before we go to Grupo Extra, because that's a very key moment, talking about COVID. And as you've seen, myself also holding our dance community accountable and realizing, like you said, those simple notions, helping and just being safe. Taking safety guidelines is important, because if we do those now, then we can come back to what we love sooner. I appreciate that a company like yourself that hosts so many events and travels the world, and this is really a part of your life, that you can say, hey, my safety right now is way more important than the financial gain. And that definitely speaks volumes.
Yeah, we've been turning down events and stuff. You know, we just don't think right now is the time. Look, I don't know shit about diseases and anything. And one of the things about COVID that has this made me disenfranchised and saddened about our culture in the US is people don't know if they should trust an expert or not. And, you know, we're politicizing science. And I don't know anything. I promise you, this person could say this and that person could say that. I researched it. Really? You researched it? You spent 2 years getting a higher education degree and reference checking or was your research? I saw 2 friends on Facebook like it and another person shared it. That's not research. So my default is, oh, wow, this person's been doing this for 30 years. I'm a gamble that person is the person I should be listening to. So right now, that's the CDC, that's Fauci. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just doing what they say. That's it.
Absolutely, I respect.
I don't have another choice. I don't want to. Trust me, I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to be home. I want to go out. I want to dance. I want to go eat some good. I want truffle fries that are fresh, not delivered, because they're not the same when they get delivered. I want to go have them at the restaurant, but I can't because the experts say it's not a good idea. They say you want to support the restaurant, order the shit to your house. So that's what we're doing.
It's not the same, but it's something. Support your businesses. You know, and you know, again, I appreciate it, and realizing now, even though we're slowly now towards the conclusion of this interview, and now I really want to bring up, like you were saying earlier, was the including or the involvement in the partnership that you guys have with Grupo Extra, because Grupo Extra now is really becoming one of the synonymous bachata bands or Latin musical groups of this generation. So to have them, but also people that we are familiar with within Island Touch for all these years, now partnering up, I think that was really the perfect combination.
Well, thank you for saying that. We met Grupo Extra in Paris, I think 10 years ago, something like that. And we just hit it off. Fidel, Tony Santana, Reno, Nene, all these guys are just dope people. And so we've maintained that relationship. But before I even talk about the Grupo Extra Touch stuff, I really just want to do my best to try to get people to understand what Grupo Extra means to the dance community, because I don't think dancers really get it. Go to Spotify, and look at how many monthly listeners Anthony Santos has, Frank Reyes has, Raulín Rodriguez has, Kelvin, Danny J, Ephraim J, Daniel Santa Cruz. Go look at those people. Then look at Royce and Romeo. And what you quickly see is that Royce and Romeo are on another planet. They live in another universe. Okay. They're gods amongst us. They're just levels to the shit. So whatever they do, we can't say nothing. They doing them. But after that, believe it or not, Grupo Extra is at the top. They're number one in Colombia right now on the crossover. Grupo Extra for years has been on the top of Latin American charts and European charts outside of dance community, because people don't understand. People come to me sometimes, Tigere, why you ain't defending bachata? Why you ain't protecting bachata? Because bachata's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if people understand. There's two planets. There's regular Earth, where all the Afro Latinos live, and they go to the nightclubs and go to the concerts and pay $50, $150 for VIP tickets and go to Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center or Amway Arena. That world, bachata's doing great. They don't play remixes. They ain't worried about sensual versus traditional. They moving on, no worries. They happy. We have this little planet where we've created all this drama and we gotta do that. That's different. Bachata's fine. They're gonna be all right. The reason why I bring that up is because Grupo Extra doesn't live in our bubble. They are at the level and they're killing it monetarily, views. So, remember we talked about the viral video, the first one, the Extreme, the 99 million views. Well, we thought that would never be beaten. But now there's another video that has 134 million views. One video. And that's Grupo Extra's Me Emborracharé with Daniel and Desiree and Ataca la Alemana dancing. So that just shows you the pull of Grupo Extra. So why am I bringing this up? Not because they're my family, I love them, but we got to keep it 100. We got to keep it $1. Grupo Extra is at the level outside of the dance scene in terms of listeners and money and charging and touring as the top of the top outside of the guys that are gods in our universe.
Yeah.
And they made a song about the dance scene. They are constantly collaborating with dance scene bachateros. And they're what I call the only mainstream bachata group that shows love to our scene. So I just want people to understand that, yes, Grupo Extra is amazing. They're fun. Their music is dope. But they are genuinely a group that has supported our dance scene from day one and shown us love when they didn't have to. With that said, oh my God. Have you heard La Alemana singing?
No, I haven't.
What? Oh, you played yourself. What kind of interviewer? You interviewing me? You haven't even heard the album?
No, I haven't heard the full album, but I've heard pockets of songs.
Well, she's on all the songs, so you need to rewind and go back and listen to La Alemana. But she shook us all. So, I've been rapping since I was a kid. I love the mic. I love the spit. I love the flow. Ataca la Alemana did a cameo with Kelvin on Calma, which came out fire.
Yes,
shout out to Kelvin Cosmos.
Yeah.
He's dope. Kelvin should be the next Prince Royce, in my opinion. Anyways, but when we heard La Alemana sing, we were like, what is this? She got pipes. She sounds great. And it's not just about pipes, because obviously, she's not Adele or Beyonce, but she got the bachata flow and swag, which is important, because sometimes people that could sing, but when they try to do bachata, it just doesn't flow. So we were just so thankful we hit the lottery again because of La Alemana. And the opportunity to work with Grupo Extra has been absolutely dreams come true for all of us. Going to the DR, producing the videos in the DR, making the music in the DR. We flew over there 3 different times. It was just extremely eye-opening, learning about the process, being a part of it. And we're just so thankful for the support we got. We're a little sad because we were planning on touring and doing actual concerts with them for the album. But, hey, a lot worse has happened to other people, so I'm not even going to complain about it. All I want people to know is that when this is over, it's Bachata Time. Volume 2 is coming. We got you. Grupo Extra Touch is here to stay. Una vaina.
Absolutely, man. And honestly, Rudy, this interview has been amazing. I've learned so much about you, the history of what it took, and the road and the journey, and the trials and tribulations that you, but also the Island Touch Collective, had to go through to get to where we are now, and realizing that I wouldn't even call it luck. I think everything happens for a reason. That first video that hit 99 million, and now working with Grupo Extra, it's really called the evolution. It's really seeing that you put the time in, you put those 10,000 plus hours in to get to where you are, to master your craft. And honestly, all of your hard work is admirable for myself, for the newest generation coming in, and realizing like, hey, you guys are leaving us gems. And especially with this interview, lots of information. And like, these are gems, people, that you can listen to over and over and learn from, because this is coming from a person like yourself that has traveled the world and knows a lot, and has, like you said, you have succeeded, but you've also had failed at points. But that has also made you stronger, and understanding what it takes to really be a success in this business, but in our community in general, and I appreciate you coming in. But also, I always ask my guests, at least before we end, is, would you like to leave myself and the audience with some last words?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing I want to do is I just want to tell everybody to keep supporting you. I've been watching this show, and I'm really proud of what you're doing. Not proud in a way like I had anything to do with it. People use that word sometimes in a weird way. I'm proud to see a brother who, I'm sure got hate. Yo, why you doing a podcast? Who you think you are? What's the point? Blah, 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 blah. Yo, you're doing a dope thing, and I see the growth, and I see the professionalism. The backstage preparation was on point.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, I see you, player. So, shout out to you first and foremost, and everybody who's listening to this. Thank you for supporting Diamond, and continue doing that. Share all his interviews, and continue to watch the ones coming forward. And in terms of last words, just be positive. Like, I don't think people really understand the mental stress that the world is currently under. People that you love are suicidal right now. People that you care about just don't know how to act. I everything I do in business right now, I always add the Corona time on it. I'm trying not to stress people out too much, because the energy is just different. There's just this coating, this little film of weirdness on everything we do. So we need to be as empathetic as possible with one another, and really, really start with ourselves, whether you pray, whether you meditate. But please, please, please speak to someone if you feel in some type of way. Call someone and be there for someone if you can. That's it. Just do that, and I'm happy. I love you guys. Let's be positive vibes all the time.
Absolutely, man. There's some beautiful last words. And at least before we go, I would love, if you can, to give you some contact information, so how people can reach you. And see
for sure. Hit us up at islandtouchdance.com. We got free bachata classes on Monday. Go to the Ataca La Alemana page. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We do free live stream DJ sessions on Tuesdays. So we just constantly trying to do our little part to give back to the community. And if you want to support, then you can subscribe to some of our stuff. But just go to islandtouchdance.com. But more important than that, just be positive, love yourself, take care of yourself, and maybe even treat yourself. I stole that from Parks and Recreation, because I'm on Netflix all the time now.
My God, I knew we were connected. Leslie Snow. Oh my God. Yes, I love Parks and Recreation, man. Oh my God. Honestly, Rudy, man, I really am blessed to have this conversation with you, and having others be a part of it. Because again, like I've told you privately as well, this is a celebration for people like you. Because a lot of times they always say, a lot of the hard work and the hours you put in, and the time and the money you put into creating everything you've done and helped create, sometimes it can feel like it's gone unnoticed, or you're just going through the motions and not really focusing. But having this kind of downtime, and having someone in your community who's paid to go to events, who's performed at some of your events, and to say, like, I appreciate what you've done all of these years, and I know what you're doing, and you're doing the right thing. And like you even said, for me, the hate, to be honest with you, I rarely get any hate, because I never have that. I try never to have those energies around me, especially advice from my boy Rudi Rivera. It's just like, haters, that's them. My thing is, I follow people like him, and I follow the same roads as you. because I see the success and I see where I want to put things. And for me, again, I really do see with this podcast, having people like you on and Grisel and Ishmael and other people in the future. Again, this is documentation that we can have long after we're done dancing, that our families can look at and say, wow, this is something I didn't know about my relative. And wow, this is really good information. Sometimes we don't get that when we're at a Congress, but having this moment to just relax and understand one another is beautiful. So again, Rudi, I thank you so much. And like I tell all my guests, this is our first interview, but I hopefully it won't be our last. And I'd love to check up on you later this year to see what you're doing next and spread and support. And again, everyone, I thank you all for listening tonight. I thank you, Rudi, for taking your time. Much love to you and Island Touch. Stay safe out there. I will definitely be in contact. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for appearing on tonight.
Thank you, brother. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening. See you all.